All right, so should you rent or own a home in Austin? There are good reasons for both. So today we're gonna break them both down.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. If you like what we talk about, we would love it if you gave it the happy little thumbs up. If you like our videos in general, we'd love if you hit the little subscribe button. And if you wanna know when we put out our next video, hit the little bell.
Love the bell.
And so you can know when our next video comes out.
Hey, we're John.
And I'm Alyse.
With the Heart of Austin Homes team, and we help people buy, sell, and lease homes all around Austin all the time.
Yeah, we help them break down, the cost, benefits, pros and cons, as well as, the emotional and psychological and other aspect pros and cons of where they're at and what's important to them.
Yeah, a lot of it just depends on personal preference, mobility, and also your finances.
Definitely.
So let's get started.
All right, guys, let's kick it with the 4 reasons to rent, 4 reasons why it's a better idea to rent. The first one is that the down payment is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So you can get away with some loans that are as low as 0% down, but most loans you're looking at a minimum of 3.5% down. So, say on a $300,000 home, that's $10,500.
Plus closing costs.
Exactly. All right, and so, that can definitely be a healthy chunk of change. And then obviously, if you want to not do mortgage insurance, then you have to do 20% down. So it can definitely be a healthy chunk of change, depending on how you dice it. However, once you calculate in your first month's rent, potentially your last month's rent, your deposit, any pet fees, et cetera.
Yeah, and on a $300,000 house, that's going to be at least $1,800 to $2,000 a month
each.
Right? So you're looking at like $6,000 to get in.
In expenses to get into a rental. So that can definitely be a good portion of the way to getting you to a down payment.
That's 2 of the 3.5%. So you're pretty close.
Definitely.
But still less.
Yeah. So that's definitely something to consider, is the down payment is kind of a thing.
Okay, the second reason to rent is that it's actually easier to move, right? So you're typically only going to lease for 12 months, maybe 18 or 24, but that's pretty unusual. So if you move around a lot or you're just sampling cities or areas of town, then renting makes sense because after a year, the cost to move is really relatively light. Like you have to move all your stuff, but there's not a lot of transaction costs. Whereas when you buy a home, you really need to be in it for several years to gain all the benefits of home ownership.
Number 3. So the difference between what it's going to cost to rent a house versus to buy that same house in monthly mortgage, they're not hugely different in Austin. In some markets, rent is going to be much higher, and so it really makes a lot of sense to buy. But in Austin, they're usually not that far apart. So that's something to keep in mind.
One example is like in Austin, what we were using before, $300,000 house rents for about $1,800 a month, right? Whereas if you look at a market like, say, Indiana, you might have a $150,000 house that rents for $1,100 a month. So that $1,100 rent is a much larger portion of the price of the house, even though it is less dollars.
Definitely.
Okay, the 4th reason to rent is that capital in your house might not be as efficient as it would be deployed elsewhere. And so this argument comes up a bunch like, well, if I'm borrowing cheap money, I'm not getting that great of a return on the equity in my home because I put in that 20% down payment. Now, that is certainly true if you are a business owner or a money manager or really good at allocating capital and you have that skill set.
A great way to get a return on your investment elsewhere.
Yeah, that's higher than whatever the appreciation and the depreciation in your house would be. But most mortals aren't, right? And the sheer data just simply shows that homeowners have a higher net worth than renters. Now, if you're one of those people who knows how to manage money and invests and you can, beat the returns on whatever you'd be getting in the appreciation of your house, like more power to you, then maybe renting is the right thing for you. However, most people I think are not really in that bucket. And it creates kind of an automatic savings plan because you have to have the discipline to invest. And most people have the discipline to make their mortgage payment, but we have a lot harder time having the discipline to invest every month. But when you make that mortgage payment, it kind of does both automatically. Even though it might not be the best return in the world, it's the one that you actually do every month, which makes it a good one.
Well, and if you put 3.5% down, say on a $300K home, right? $10,500. I just had a couple that has made somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 in appreciation on their about 300K home, a little over 300K home on 3.5% down. So they have now made, in a little over 2 years, 10 times their investment of $10,500.
That's a really great example, and that's in an appreciating market like Austin. Your mileage may vary. That does not always happen. So there are times when you knock it out of the park
and
like
better
that.
done over a longer time period, in which case.
But if you're in a market like Knoxville or the Midwest somewhere, like that's not going to happen.
All right, now let's talk about the 5 reasons why it may be smarter to buy a home. So number 1, this one's for me because the feel-good one. I like to make my space my own. When you buy, you get to make your space your own. No landlord's going to tell you can't paint a wall a certain color. No landlord's going to tell you that you can't, add a sink inside your house, that sort of thing. And they can't just make you sell or make you leave when they go to sell the house, or make you leave every year because they're bumping the rent up significantly, etc. Once your mortgage is locked at a certain amount, outside of property taxes going up, it stays at that amount. It doesn't get jacked to $100, $150 every single year.
And if any of you guys out there know, happy wife is happy life. So there is value in letting your wife do
bright colors,
whatever she wants with the house. Okay, the second reason you might consider buying are the tax benefits and the appreciation benefits. So just like Alyse mentioned in her last example, if you're in an appreciating market, that property is going to increase in value over time, especially in the environment that we're in right now with limited inventory and money pumping. I think that that's certainly going to be something we're going to see in the future. And also you get to write off the taxes. So all of the taxes and the interest that you pay on your note are deductible from your income. So if you normally paid taxes on $50,000 worth of income, but you paid $10,000 in tax and interest, then now you only pay income tax on $40,000. So that's a nice perk and one of the best perks of owning a home.
Definitely. And, instead of your landlord getting that tax write-off, you get that tax write-off. Yay! Number 3 is that it is an automatic nest egg. So you're required to keep paying your mortgage. Who knew? And that will involve building up principal payments that will then knock down how much you own on it. And, assuming you're in an appreciating market, that will add on to there. And so you'll end up with a healthy chunk of change coming out of the other side. And that itself can sometimes be used as your nest egg, as your ability to save for retirement. Obviously, smart to also save elsewhere, but it can end up being a large chunk of that.
Yeah, many Americans, their home is their primary asset, and that's where most of their wealth is held. And in some cases, if it makes sense, you can also borrow against the equity in your home for cash for other things, maybe other investments is what I would use with it. But you could use it for other things. Just make sure to keep some equity so you don't get over leveraged, because if you do that, that's what got us into trouble in 2008, is not making sure that you're super leveraged in your home. Okay, the 4th reason to own a home, and this may vary by market, but here in Austin, the cost to own is actually not that much higher than the rent itself. So if you're to buy, say, a $300,000 home, and you put 3.5% down, and you use like some basic numbers like, a 3%, or 3.5% interest rate, which is actually kind of high for right now. That total payment would be about $2,100 a month. Now, that number is going to change depending on your specific finances, but it's a ballpark number. And that same home might rent for just $1,800 or $1,900. So the per month cost is just really not that much higher. So if you can squeak $200 more a month, the difference is obviously the down payment, but your monthly spend is just about the same, at least in Austin in many cases.
Definitely. And then once you factor in the tax write-offs, then that decreases your amount of tax burden for the year, which makes up for the difference. Then you factor in any sort of appreciation that's going now to you instead of your landlord. That makes up for that small difference.
Hey, where have we heard this before?
Oh my gosh, we're broken records. But I mean, there are other financial benefits that frequently make up for the little difference between the cost to rent and the cost to buy. Number 5, our final one, is belonging to a community. I wanted to take this one because I love this aspect. I like knowing that I own this home and walking out and saying hi to the other people walking their dogs, obviously from a 6 to 20 foot distance minimum.
Right.
But and then, getting involved in things nearby and feeling like I belong to an area and that area belongs to me. feels really good and really beautiful to anybody with a sentimental bone in their body.
Yeah, and when you own a home, typically people are going to be in a home longer than they're in some place that they rent, so they're around longer, and those relationships can be longer and deeper and that sort of thing.
Definitely. Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. We wanted to ask, would you rather rent or would you rather own your own home? Please let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear and hear your reasons why and for. We totally understand and help people with either one. So just really interesting to hear what you're up to.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, heck, even if you don't like the video, turn that thumb blue. It really helps us out a bunch, helps the algorithm. Subscribe if you want to see new videos from us, and hit the bell if you want to be notified when we release new videos every week. Thank you so much.
Definitely. And if you like this video, please check out our other videos on the process of buying a home in Austin, as well as the cost of living in Austin. Those are super relevant to this video. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Really appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Bye.